The sun is shining, cars about to hit the track here at the Nurburgring. It is time for qualifying for the Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe. It's Q1 coming up. We've got a 28-strong grid, and we've got the Nurburgring, and just in a week's time, the Hungaroring, to decide champions within the European segment of Blancpain GT World Challenge. It's going to be a very interesting weekend, that is for sure. The weather gods, I think, are going to smile on us for the whole weekend. And as I say, 28 cars for the entry. It's a quality entry. We've got points on offer, of course, overall, plus the Silver Cup and the AM and Pro-Am competition. So there's a lot to look for over the course of the two races, one today, one tomorrow. Cars already on track. Green lights on at the end of the pit lane. Green flag shows David Addison, John Watson trackside. And although it's quite cool this morning, the sun is shining, John. It's going to get hotter and hotter both on and off track.
Well, I have to say, I'm delighted that we got such beautiful weather. Normally when you come to Nürburgring, everything is different shades of grey. And what we had yesterday, what we've got this morning, is in effect early autumnal weather, and it is just glorious, perfect conditions for all 28 teams, drivers to go out, qualifying 1, qualifying 2, to set their respective times. Track conditions, as I say, could not be better. Just a matter of getting that all-important one single clear lap.
Absolutely, and it's a short, sharp session, of course, only 20 minutes, so you don't get too many laps in. You've got to try and manage the traffic. There, the cars coming out of the chicane into what is now the Hyundai curve. 563 Lamborghini going through. Marco Pirelli ready to start a flying lap. And on to the first gun lap of the session there. Look, is the attempt to Audi number 66, the car of Calvin van der Linde and Clemens Schmidt. It is Calvin van der Linde who does the driving duties in Q1 as he sweeps now through the Mercedes arena. It's the Grand Prix circuit, it's the full Grand Prix circuit, which means they go all the way down the hill, down to the Dunlop curve, and then blast their way back up through the Schumacher S.
Calvin van der Linde, amongst others, who have made that long trip out to Japan for the 10 hours of Suzuka. And Calvin van der Linde and Dries van Voor in the same car that came away victors. So a lot of maybe slightly weary competitors. Not most of them a very tough race at Suzuka, but the long flight back, and then the turnaround to get yourself ready, prepared for this weekend's events. Fortunately, both events are just 1 hour in duration, so roughly 30 minutes per driver in each of those two events. Calvin van der Linde, the first person to get purple. Understandably, he's the first car to cross the timing beam.
So now we need to see what his sectors are like relative to, for example, Marco Pirelli, who has gone quicker by 2/10 within the first sector. And somebody running way, way wide there. That's the blue Audi of Finlay Hutchison. He's got away with that, but that could have been a bit of a moment for him. There is van der Linde coming out of the Bilstein curve down towards the Advan Bogen. Speed building now as the road starts to climb up towards chicane. Lights flashing at the traffic to say, I am on a quick lap, get out of the way. Van der Linde, as John says, is turning the timing screens purple because he's the first quick driver through the sectors. There's nothing to gauge him against. But interestingly, behind him, as I say, Pirelli is going quicker within sector 1.
I suppose the benchmark time we could expect to see as a red flag has been thrown. We haven't yet seen the reason for that. And did Calvin van der Linde get that lap time in prior to the red flag being shown?
He did. It was a 1:55. No, it's been taken away.
I was going to say, I think it probably was established just so. And there you can, I guess, that is that at the exit of turn 4. Oh.
It's the Rory Penton and Steve Earle Ferrari that has gone off. Rory Penton at the wheel.
Yep.
Over the curb.
Yeah, well, he got a bit of a tank slapper in the middle of it, so once the back end of the car broke away, and you can see just how much of a... Oh, wow. Well, it didn't turn over, but it got up on 2 wheels for sure. So red flag, and the reason why the car, you can see the edge of the racetrack, you can see with the barriers, there's not a huge amount of space between the two, so that car will be removed. There may be a bit of debris off the racetrack as the recovery vehicle very rapidly gets across diagonally to the flow of traffic to get to the 111 Ferrari. And Calvin van der Linde will be mighty disappointed because that was his first flying lap. Yeah. He just recorded the time, disallowed, not for any fault of his own. Watch the Ferrari, the second of these two cars. There he gets over the curb, he gets that little tank slapper, and then it starts to move up and down and bouncing, and that's when it all gives up probably caused by not getting tyres up to fully operating temperature and a certain amount of maybe inexperience as well.
And very close to going over, as you saw, but damage on the right rear corner. That's going to take it out of Q1, potentially out of Q2 as well. Steve Earle may not get to drive, depending on the damage.
I would imagine the car will not run in either qualifying session, certainly not in this one, but probably not in the second Q session either, because whatever the damage is, by the time the car gets returned into the pit lane and they take the bodywork off, and it was a heavy enough hit to tip the car up on two wheels, so that may have impacted on that corner, the suspension, drive shaft, usual thing just to get into the gearbox. So I would imagine the car will go back into the garage and will stay there. And where that car might have started, had it not had this incident, more than likely towards the back of the field. Anyway, Steve, orthopedic surgeon from Texas. Exactly, Steve. Tell it as it is, Steve.
So, a true gentleman racer, but frustrated that he's not out on track. A lovely quote from his wife to say that if he's not raced for a while, he gets on her nerves. So apparently she spoke to Ronnie Kessel at Kessel Racing and said, find something for him to drive, because whatever you're charging him, it's cheaper than the divorce is going to be.
Excuse me, I forget about the marriage. Imagine you're one of his patients and he's bursting to get into his Ferrari to go racing, and he's trying to put together a compound fracture. He's going to do it. Of course he is, but he's a professional surgeon. But anyway, you know, these are the niggles that occur. You know, you get these sort of grey days in relationships, and you know, maybe Mrs. Earle was having one of those sort of off-shaded days.
You might well be right. You might be right. So, Steve Earle is here. He's doing his best to get in the car, but Rory Penttinen has put it off the road. We also had a look a few moments ago, number 23, which is the Tech 1 Racing Lexus. Now, we've seen that as an AMP Cup car within the Endurance Cup this year, but Olivier Panis' son, and Jack Hawksworth, the two drivers. 52 down the pit lane, which is the Ferrari that Andrea Bertolini shares with Louis Machiels. Andrea missed the driver's briefing because he was off on Ferrari duties yesterday, so he's €500 lighter. There were one or two others that weren't here for the driver's briefing because they were doing other manufacturer requirements. The red flag procedure of number 17, Tom Gamble, is under investigation. Restart on short notice, says Joel Duval, this weekend's race director. Mathieu Drudy for Temto, he's good to go with the Silver Cup Audi, and nobody has got a lap time in because the red flag came out just before cars came up towards the line. So it means that we're going to have an even shorter Q1.
That's what you get when you get these short qualifying sessions and you get an incident, as Raffaele Marciello is contemplating. I think that's what I would say he is doing. What he might be contemplating is purely a personal matter, but walks out of the garage, surveys the pit lane, and quickly has carried out that survey and goes back into the garage.
So there, the team's ready to go. Louis Machiels at the head of the queue. And number 17, Tom Gamble, no further action. So the stewards have had a look at whatever it was he was alleged to have done under that red flag and said, no, that's all good, that's fine. Green flag is shown, so we are back in business. So bear in mind that it had taken the best part of 5 minutes before they got to the end of a flying lap. We are looking at really just 10 minutes of competitive mileage now.
Excellent. I really enjoy it when there is a bit of pressure on the boys, because it means that they have to now deliver.
Yeah.
They can't faff around saying, oh, I didn't quite get tire temperature on that out lap, I need another lap. Look, you've got a brief window now to get a time in. This is going to be your grid for the race later this afternoon. So get out there, get on with the program. And that's always, I find, how you get the best out of a racing driver.
There is 17, that's the Tom Gamble, Shea Davis Audi. Tom Gamble, former single-seater racer, winner of last year's BRDC McLaren Young Driver of the Year award. They're going through an 88 Mercedes. Another one to watch is Vincent Abril. And at the moment, the only person with clear track space ahead of him is, of course, Louis Machiels there in the black and white AF Corsa Ferrari. The clever ones will either be out first or try and lag back by half a lap and get themselves some clear space on the road that way.
Determining the track temperature, those that have yet to go out, or those that are maybe hanging back in the hope that they will go out with maybe 5 or 8 minutes or whatever to go and get the benefit of a track that is beginning to empty. Once again, these initial runners will do one hot lap and they will get the best performance from their tyre on that one flying lap. I suspect the likes of the number 1 Audi, which has got Ezekiel Perez compact back behind the wheel along with Dries van Thor. That car, certainly in the hands of Dries van Thor, will be in Q2 a car that will challenge for pole position. In fact, he set the quickest time yesterday in free practice 2 at 1:54.9, so that is the benchmark time that everybody will be focusing upon. So anything below a 1:55 is going to be kind of at the races, you would think.
I would agree. Charles Weert, number 2 Audi for WRT, has been reported to the stewards for pit lane speeding. All the WRT Audis, and indeed the championship this weekend, remembering former champion Enzo Ede, who was injured in a domestic accident, and we wish him well for a speedy recovery. And of course, as a champion for WRT, Vincent Voss's team particularly eager to do well this weekend for a good friend of the team.
Very much so. And set my best wishes also to Enzo Ede, who's been, we haven't seen him now for 2 seasons in Blancpain. A man and a family who have got interest in commerce far and wide. So get well soon, Enzo.
Now there's Vincent Abril, who makes the run now down towards the Dunlop curve at the foot of the hill. In this Mercedes, of course, switching from Bentley to Mercedes for this year. Winner at Zandvoort in the first race. In terms of wins, both Brands Hatch races went the way of Mercedes. At Misano it was Lamborghini Audi, and at Zandvoort it was Mercedes Audi. Abril makes the climb then now, up the hill, on the road to himself. Now what are we looking like in terms of sectors? Again, Marco Mappelli is the absolute best sector 1 in number 563 Lamborghini. That's the car that he shares with Andrea Caldarelli, former endurance champion. And down the hill comes Abril now.
So we'll just get a view of what Vincent Abril is going to achieve. Marco Mappelli, as you point out, fastest in that first sector in the 563 Lamborghini. The Lamborghini, as Abril goes quickest overall, second sector. So that spoiled all that good effort in the second sector. So whatever he saved, he's just gone and lost by being a little bit aggressive on the exit, not quite keeping the car within the confines of the curbing more than just simply the racetrack. Comes across start-finish line, goes second quickest, 1:57.1. Nico Bastian, 1:56.4 in the sister ACA ASP car, has gone quickest, but that is the Silver Cup car within the ACA ASP team. Marco Mappelli now has gone quickest overall.
So Mappelli by half a second ahead of Bastian. Tom Gamble is 3rd, Fabian Schiller is 4th, Charles Weert 5th, Compact 6th, Abril is down to 7th, and there are plenty of others that have yet to do a time and are starting to shuffle the order accordingly. Aro Vigno, for example, into the top 10. Mathieu Drudi, 2nd fastest. You're looking at Mappelli, a really good first flying lap that, and not only has he gone top, which is crucial, but it's by some margin, 4/10. Now the next one to look for is number 66. Kelvin van der Linde has done an absolute best in the first sector. Remember, he was looking good before we got the red flag, and van der Linde is in the middle sector. And is he going to be able to get himself up to the front of the grid here?
Well, he will have hoped that he hadn't taken everything out of his set of tyres on that first flying lap, which actually, as he came into the final turn, the red flag was then thrown. So he basically crossed the line, having done a hot lap on a set of tyres that really he didn't want to have the time taken away. It's Andrea Caldarelli, who's co-driver in that 563 Lamborghini. Here we are on board with Marco Mappelli. So personal best in sector 1, or the current quickest lap by anybody, up into turns 11 and 12. This, I think the nature of Nurburgring, as we've seen on other circuits, we didn't see inspire some of the benefits that this team, the FFF team, have built into their Lamborghinis. But I think here at Nürburgring, they will. The nature of the racetrack is not as aggressive as Spa-Francorchamps, where you've got big compressions. But Kelvin van der Linde, 1:55.519, has just overtaken Marco Mappelli. So Mappelli comes into the pit lane with, 9 minutes or so of the session remaining.
The other one that's getting on with the job is Lukas Stolz, who is thinking points, thinking championship. Stolz up to 3rd, 1:56.070. Right now, our top 11 are covered by just under a second. 12th is Stefano Ortelli. Good to have him back. And there, out wide goes Van der Linde, brings the marbles back towards the curb, so the next car to run over them is going to be in potential strife, but this is the fastest car in the session now by 0.3 of a second. Van der Linde looking really strong this morning.
Yep, he is currently, but it is Mirko Bortolotti who is fastest overall right now in Sector 1, currently in 5th place. Simon Gachet in the 25 Tandalock Audi has popped up into 2nd place, and he is 0.3 of a second behind Kelvin van der Linde, the car we're looking at on screen, the 66 Attempto Audi. Very much, I got the feeling from practice yesterday, those two sessions, it's an Audi circuit. 5 of the top 6 in the top 6 were Audis.
And if it's not an Audi, you could argue it could then be a Lamborghini circuit, seeing that they are similar, pretty closely matched. Yes. Yeah. So van der Linde, Gachet, Pirelli. Now Bortolotti is looking good. He's up to second, 1:55.758. Here is van der Linde with a slightly slower Sector 1, an absolute best in Sector 2. The margin he's got over Bortolotti is 0.2. Can he go even quicker still? Let's see. He breaks the beam at a 55.6, which means he's slightly slower.
Lucas Stolz slips into 2nd place. Bortolotti's down to 3rd. Gachet 4th. Pirelli in the pits in 5th. And Drudi, I've been watching all year Matteo Drudi, and he sort of has just always been on pace. He's there.
Yeah, agreed. I think the phrase "flies under the radar" is the cliche to use.
Very much so.
Steyr Schockhorst, in contrast, number 55 in his attempt to Audi, is the slowest of those that have done a time. There's more to come from that car, certainly that he shares with Nick Foster. He's not in the pit lane, but all is not well, one assumes, unless he is running out of sequence against everybody else. So 55 ought to go quicker before the end. And the end is only 7.5 minutes away as Bortolotti comes out of the Dunlop curve now.
And another car that needs to improve is the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes Vincent Abril, currently in the pit lane.
And not only that, it's had a time cancelled for cutting the chicane. So I think we saw it go off the road.
We saw more or less that time.
And so lap time cancelled for cutting the chicane. Lively session. Van der Linde it is that still tops by 0.111. Van der Linde absolute best Sector 1. You're looking at Bortolotti, but he's down in the first sector. Van der Linde is the man to keep an eye on if he can go faster still. Who else is looking good in sectors? Renat Salikov in the treble 3 Ferrari, which is a Pro-Am car that he shared with David Perra. Bortolotti into the pit lane anyway, so not a surprise. Down in Sector 1, down in Sector 2. Van der Linde, as I say, absolute best in the first sector. Yeah,
and best in the second sector now as well. As Vincent Abril is back out on track, knowing that, 6 minutes 30 seconds. By the time he gets back to the start-finish line, it's going to be 5 minutes and something.
Now 66 Audi, 2 absolute bests. Kelvin van der Linde breaks the beam, does a 55.755, which means he lost out in the last sector. Absolute best, dropped a couple of tenths.
Yep, lost quite a lot of time, in fact, in that final sector. Maybe traffic, we didn't see the lap. But here we now see Vincent Abril, who is on, it'll be the final run, 6 minutes now. He's on the run down into the lowest part of the circuit, on the brakes down into turn 8. Keep it neat, don't overdrive on the exit. This is the run now, the drive up the hill through the Schumacher S's. It looks like he's going slowly.
Well, this time it's all under perfect control, unlike when we focused on him a little while ago. And up now towards the sequence of the Ravenel curve and the Bilstein curve that he comes. He's building up to a flying lap, of course, Vincent Abril having come out of the pit lane. So this is not the ultimate flyer. It'll be the next one through. I'm looking to see who else. Steyr Schockhorst I was getting concerned about. He's up to 7th, 1:56.264.
How quickly, a time, you've established a time, you could be first, you could be fourth, whatever, and in the space of 2 laps, you could just drop 4 or 5 positions, which is very much the case that we're looking at with the 88 Mercedes. Kelvin van der Linde right now dominating the session by just over a tenth of a second from the fastest of the Mercedes, Lucas Stolz, the number 4 Black Falcon, and then the first of the Lamborghinis, Mirko Bortolotti, in the Grasser racing team, who are finding again the form that we knew they've always had, but to some degree this season have been slightly eclipsed by the Orange 1 FFF race team, this new three-car team that has made a big impact so far.
Absolutely right, but Bortolotti and Engelhardt work well together. Got a good pedigree here. Let's see what can be done as Vincent Abril heads towards the end of the first sector. Now this is going to reveal whether he's on it. Let's see, running out of time, he'll get one more lap out of it at least. Wide up the curb, and now thunders down the hill. We will see in a moment whether he's able to do an improvement within sector 1. Nico Bastian's Mercedes has just done the absolute best in the first sector. Vincent Abril goes through at the end of sector 1 and is quicker than he has been. So Abril looks good, but Nico Bastian's the man to watch.
Yeah, but Nico Bastian in the sister car, a Silver Cup car, was a tenth of a second quicker than Vincent Abril, which is the pro car.
Yeah.
But Nico Bastian is effectively a pro driver. Again, another driver who tends to fly, because he's in the Silver Cup car, you don't see it necessarily standing on the podium as a race winner overall. But certainly, by Nico Bastian, very, very good indeed. As Vincent Abril, personal best, first sector.
So good. Nico Bastian is now third fastest. So personal, absolute personal. Simon Gachet has now done the absolute best sector 1. So there is Vincent Abril, but he's being overshadowed a little bit at the moment. Vincent Abril, 2 personal bests. Yes, agreed, but not absolute bests. This should move him up from 9th, but to where? Let's see. 3 minutes to go. He will get another lap out of the session. He goes 5th fastest, so it's an improvement.
But he is overall quickest in that final sector, which is a kind of an indication that when he started the lap, the tyre preparation maybe it wasn't quite optimized. It got better in effect as the lap went on. Simon Gachet, fastest overall in sector 1, personal best sector 2, currently 6th overall, and could pop up into the top 3 for sure, assuming he gets a good exit out of the final turn, and he does get a good exit. So Simon Gachet, in fact, dropped to 6th in midway through the lap, goes quickest overall.
Good effort. So the Audi goes quickest by 73 thousandths of a second. The significant thing in all of this, yes, at Zandvoort he was a race winner, now he's potentially on a pole position, is how Gachet has improved over his 2-3 seasons in Blancpain GT racing. He's got quicker all the time.
So was this man, Mirko Bortolotti, in the 563 Lamborghini. Fastest first sector, up the hill, launches it into the Schumacher S's car, looks pretty planted. A little bit of a bobble, but nevertheless the rear of the car is planted. That's the key to getting up through there quickly and not having to jiggle on the steering wheel or dance on the pedals.
So Bortolotti looking strong, but is he strong enough? He is 7th fastest at the moment. Remember, they are 2 independent sessions, 2 independent grids. So gone are the days of qualifying for race 1 grid, the qualifying race to determine the main race grid. It's now completely standalone, completely independent. Bortolotti through the chicane, 2 absolute bests. Unless he makes a mistake, this is going to be pole, isn't it? Through he comes. Lukas Stolz has just gone quickest in the Mercedes number 4 of the local Black Falcon team. 1:55.087, and Bortolotti will go quickest of all on a 55.023 by 64 1,000ths of a second. Mirko Bortolotti goes top.
I mean, how close could you have the top? Well, the top 2 are coming by those 64 thousandths of a second. As Bortolotti continues on his way, Lukas Stolz in the Black Falcon Mercedes. He was quickest, he's been now pushed down into, he's still on the front row of the grid, which is, he doesn't want to go any further down the field than that. We've got, 42 seconds remaining, so he will be able to complete this lap. There are others that are also on a lap, Simon Gachet being one of them, but not indicating any improvements in sector times. So it's pretty much Lamborghini, Mercedes, then 4 Audis between 3rd and 6th place. Nico Bastian down to 7th, and Fabian Schiller in the 90 Mercedes in 8th place. Stefano Telli back in an Audi is 10th. More notable, actually, the big disappointment, I would say, of this session, and as Lukas Stolz kicks up a bit of dust coming through the Schumacher S, is the position of the 88. The Vincent Abril and Raffaele Marciello Mercedes down in 13th. That car, Vincent Abril, is on a lap, but his speed through sector 1 is way down. Lukas Stolz got personal best, so he's made a small improvement in sector 1. Nothing, 7/10ths down in sector 2, so this lap is not going to see any change in movement forward in terms of what they would hope to reclaim that provisional pole position before the checkered flag is out now. So Stokes will consolidate at best in second place.
So the flag is out, 64 thousandths is the margin, and it is Lamborghini, Mercedes, Audi, Lamborghini within the top 6. There is the Tom Gamble, number 17 WRT Audi, 16th fastest, Tom Gamble. And the slowest of those that had done a proper lap time, Mauro Ricci. Rory Penttinen, of course, never got a time in before he had his off. Marco Mappelli 6th, having been one of the stars early on. Simon Gachet a little bit frustrated, no doubt, but still further proof he's up there by only missing out by half a second on pole position. He's a factor these days. Had a lot of tutelage from Christopher Haase, and it's paying off, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Christopher Haase is, again, a very, very, very experienced driver, especially in the Audi setup. And by tutoring Simon Gachet and helping him develop in terms of ability, but maybe just also confidence, the Audi is a slightly more, let's say, it's not as, well, looking at the Mercedes, Fabian Schiller, the Mercedes is a car you can put anybody in it and they will gain confidence immediately. In the Audi, you have to work with the car and build up that confidence and faith and trust in the car.
So is anybody else going to improve at the very end? Yes, they are. Mappelli's last lap was slightly quicker, a 55.586, stays 6th fastest. Anybody else? Rick Brokers, we didn't touch on in that session. Number 10, Rick Brokers in the Audi. He shares with Oscar Tunho, but he's improved at the very end to be 17th. And the Lexus, Aurélien Panis, switching from TCR to GT for the weekend, 15th quickest he is. Now, number 25, Simon Gachet, and number 11, which is Finlay Hutchison, under investigation for impeding. Plot thickens.
Yeah, we didn't see an awful lot of Simon Gachet, and I don't know who the car that felt they were impeded might be, so that's a question for the stewards to answer and give a deliberation on. Looking down the top 4, I would say Kelvin van der Linde, who really was very much to the fore in the earlier part of this session. He will feel disappointed because he dominated initially and looked like he'd got it all done and dusted. But a great run from the Grasser Racing Lamborghini, Mirko Bortolotti, has put everybody back on their heels, did 9 laps in total, and ended up in pole position, fastest sector overall in Sector 1.
Now Q2 will be starting in about 7 minutes' time. And Mirko Bortolotti then the fastest by 0.161 of a second. A double whammy in terms of pleasure, that it's pole, but significantly also that Grasser Lamborghini is ahead of the FFF racing team.
Yes, and just looking into we're in the FFF garage there. Phil Keane was turning around and looking at Andrea Caldarelli, talking to the engineer who works specifically with that car. Where did we get it wrong?
Mirko Bortolotti then is the fastest by 0.161 of a second at the end of Q1. Lucas Stoltz second and Simon Gachet third. Fourth, Kelvin van der Linde ahead of Mathieu Drudi, Marco Mappelli sixth from Charles Weerts. Then Nico Bastien, Fabian Schiller and Ezequiel Perez Companc, recovered after his Paul Ricard accident, 10th ahead of Stefan Ortelli. Ricky Collard, 12th in the Aston from Vincent Abril, only 13th, disappointment that. Stein Scotthorse, 14th, and then the Lexus of Aurélien Panis, 15th fastest. 16th is the Tom Gamble Audi, ahead of the sister car of Rick Brokers. Stephen Palette, GT4 graduate, 18th, ahead of Kim Louis Schramm, who got Jamie Green for company this weekend. Then it's Taylor Proto, the American-based Brit, from Renat Salikov. Finlay Hutchison, 22nd, from Mauro Vainio, Louis Machiels, Hiroshi Hamaguchi, Florian Scholz's Am Cup Ferrari from Mauro Ricci, and then Rory Penttinen's damaged Ferrari, no time. Now the team will be working hard on that to try and get it out, if possible, even if it's only for an installation lap, just to make sure that everything is pointing in roughly the right direction as we get set then for the second part of qualifying. And that's going to be coming up very shortly. Quick look back at the best bits of Q1, and it was unfortunately not a long session for Rory Penttinen, and that was at the Schumacher S. He had that moment up the curb round, went the back into the barriers, and that brought out the red flag. And what that meant was, with people not having got a time in, that they had even less available time to try and do a flying lap. So the fastest time in the end was Mirko Bortolotti right towards the very end, and Mirko Bortolotti tops the times at the end of Q1. Let's hear his thoughts after a really good start to the morning.
Mirko, what a mega time that was. Was that close to your predicted time, or did that come just straight out of the bag?
No, it's never predicted. I mean, you're just pushing maximum. You don't know what the lap time's going to be. You just go for it maximum. And it was a maximum lap, so I'm really happy. Back on the pole again. Yeah, just so thankful to the team. They did a mega job. Yesterday we worked really hard. We were not on the point in free practice 1, but then we step by step got there. Obviously, it's the first time with a new car on the longer circuit. So it's great. It's great to be on pole. Fantastic starting position, and yeah, I'm really happy. I'm looking forward to the race now.
Now it's a little bit hot outside, but the track conditions look beautiful. You almost made that lap look easy.
I know it's never easy. Trust me. I mean, on this field with these amazing drivers' cars, it's never easy. But really thankful to the team. They put me in a perfect spot without traffic. Tire pressures were perfect, so I could really push and get the maximum out of the car. Really happy, and as I said before, it's just qualifying. It's great to be on pole, but it's a long race ahead, and we have to focus on that now.
Well done. Let's see if Christian can match you. Thanks.
Great effort by Mirko Bortolotti, and underlining just how competitive it is. These tiny, tiny margins that we're talking about now, thousandths in sectors, tenths in terms of lap times.
I mean, to me, it's all about the outlap and the pace that you run. For some teams, they run hard on the outlap, the cars that are maybe marginally easier on the tyre. For others that maybe are slightly more aggressive on the tyre, they may not want to go quite so hard in the first sector, build up in the second sector. So it's knowing your team and knowing your car and your previous experience and knowledge of events here at Nurburgring to know precisely what you've got and when you need to exercise it. And Mirko Bortolotti did the perfect job for the Grasser Racing team to go quickest overall, and maybe slightly unexpectedly, because the dominance that we saw, or we've seen, sorry, over previous seasons from that Grasser Racing Lamborghini hasn't quite been as present throughout this season as it has in others. They're back at the races, David, that's all I can say. Exactly right.
So the cars getting themselves set for Q2. And as we await the pit lane opening, it is now open, so we should be in business. And the field will venture out. Now, in a number of cases, you've got the faster driver. Not every case, because of course some very evenly matched, like a Bortolotti and an Engelhardt. But in the case of, as an example, Ezequiel Perez Compan, Dries van Toor. Dries is the gun in that. I mean, Ezequiel is far from slow, but Dries van Toor is the one you would anticipate now to be able to go for the time.
Very much so, and still the time that Dries van Toor set in the second of those 3 practice sessions on Friday afternoon is a time that has yet to be matched. It was, okay, the time of Bortolotti got within a few thousand, 100 certainly of a second, but nobody has so far this morning managed to get below that 1 minute 55 second benchmark time. Dries van Toor did a 1:54.938, hundredths of a second away from the time you've seen in Q1. So will Dries van Toor find that little bit of additional pace that clearly he had on Friday afternoon?
And also, what can the Black Falcon Mercedes do? We keep talking about the fact that it's wide open, that it's competitive. We'll think also about the championship, because coming here, Lukas Stoltz and Amaro Engel, 61.5 points, the 53 of Marco Pirelli and Andrea Calvarelli. There's the championship situation to factor in. And of course, the final 2 races in just a week's time at the Hungaroring. So this weekend, you could argue, is about banking points and staying in the fight to take it down to the wire next weekend.
Yes, of course, an entirely different racetrack to the Nurburgring. Not a massive amount of difference in length, but a lot of difference in the layout and configuration.
Let's hear from Florian Scholzer from the AM Cup. He's with Dakota.
Florian, now I love the AM Cup. There's only 2 of you racing here this weekend, but you guys are on point.
Yes, but my competitor crashed the car in the outlap or in the second lap, so it was a little bit disappointed for me. Like I said yesterday, I don't like the track really, and I'm really too slow. I thinking I'm very fast, the car is good, but my lap time was not there where I hope it should be.
When I meant on point with the standings. You guys are leading up by 100 points almost. What an incredible lead you have.
Yeah, we just have to arrive and not make a mistake and not make an accident. And yeah, this is the most target of the weekend.
Good luck. We'll get back to qualifying.
Interesting that Florian Scholz says he doesn't like the circuit. He's done many a lap around here, both in terms of GTs, Lamborghinis, the ADAC GT Masters. He's done the Nurburgring 24 hours. So maybe it's just this weekend he doesn't like it because he's not quite fast enough.
I mean, maybe got out of bed the wrong side of the bed this morning, goodness knows. But certain drivers have certain foibles, and whether they like, I mean, this is, it doesn't lose, let's say, personality and character as other racetracks around the world might do. But it's a racetrack. If you're I'm going to say professional driver, maybe Florian Scholz isn't the professional that I'm aware of that other competitors are. So therefore you can have maybe preferences, but if you're employed, my view is if you're employed as a professional driver, you shouldn't have favourites, because if you have a favourite, then there's others that you're not so favourable towards. You have to make a level playing field, and every circuit should be a favourite as a professional.
Yeah, he's an experienced a class winner in the past in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe, in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo World Finals, so he's an experienced campaigner, and switching up to GT racing this year into really the top level. So everybody's on track, or most people are venturing out on track, I should say. Jamie Green, one of the first out in the Phoenix Audi, Phoenix local team based just down the road at Moispap, so he's going to be one to watch, the DTM star, and Clement Schmidt doing the absolute best in the middle sector. But, of course, they're on an outlap thus far.
And of course, Jamie Green, who's developing a second career as a broadcaster, David.
He is a regular visitor to the commentary box at Silverstone for the Grand Prix. I think that might be his third career, because I think the second one he's got his eye on is being a GT driver. I
thought he was going to be a truck driver, Formula One truck racing maybe or something. No.
You know, his brother is a Formula One world champion, Formula One stock car world champion of years past, is Jamie's brother.
Somebody has to be.
Well, this is true. This is true. Right, Dries van Thor goes through, and onto a flying lap he now goes. And we'll start to cycle through times in due course as the order starts to take effect here. Andrea Caldarelli on track. We've also got Vantor, you've got Maro Engel, there's Fred Vervisch, Christopher Mies, and Andrea Caldarelli looking at number 563 on a flying lap now. Let's see what he can wriggle out of this, as Lamborghini has already proved its pace in that first session. But 28 or 27 cars we're going to have now. Steve Earle, the one that will miss out with the damaged Ferrari. The field hustles on. So Caldarelli will start to monitor the sector times. Dries van Thor goes through sector 1, but Caldarelli then down to the Dunlop curve, turns his way up the hill now, and let's see, is this going to be another Lamborghini-friendly session?
I would certainly expect Andrea Caldarelli to, relative to his teammate Marco Marpello, to be very, very competitive indeed, because the way the car has been developed has been very much developed around the feedback from Andrea Caldarelli and the engineering staff in the FFF racing team. So currently fastest overall sector 1. So we've got very early days yet in this session, but we're coming up very quickly to the conclusion of Q2. I suspect, I would imagine, coming into the end of the area's quickest overall in Q2. So he is going to establish the first flying lap of any of the leading competitors. And this lap, will it be a lap to match what we've seen from the 63 Lamborghini in Q1? Will it eclipse the lap time we saw yesterday from Dries van Thor? 55.5. Well, it's half a second down on the time that we saw at the conclusion of Q1. But at an opening time, Caldarelli will take it.
Well, absolutely. It's a 1:55.509. David Perel, the South African driver, goes second. David, I would imagine, has got his sights on participating in the Kyalami 9 Hours, which will be the last of the Intercontinental rounds of the season, and an event building all the time. Dries van Thor, however, you're looking at, he has now done the absolute best within the first sector. So the number 1 Audi looking quick as Fred Vervisch gets his Audi up to second. The winner here, admittedly, on a lot more of the available real estate in the 24 hours this year, but there is Dries van Thor, number 1, who was also part of that winning Nurburgring 24 team, and he is looking oh so strong, but he runs it wide up the curb there, coming out of the Bilstein curve.
Yeah, ran wide. Whether that's cost him time or not, coming up to the conclusion of sector 2, up the hill into this revised, that's been revised a number of times, about half a second. Well, this is going to take him close, if he maintains this progress, close to the time he established last evening. but 154.9. Dries Van Voor, good clean exit out of the final turn across start finish line. 154. Wow! Almost blows the doors off everybody by just under 0.7 of a second. Well, now that's a message. Everyone's got it.
Mauro Engel gets just over half a second shy of him, but even so, that's a heck of a margin. Dries Van Voor then absolutely flying. Also going well, Marvin Kirchhoff as Aston Martin up to third fastest now.
Yeah, and imagine what Dries Van Voor might have done had he not run wide coming out of turn 13. Back to Phil Keane in the sister car to Andrea Caldarelli. So, well,
the other one we've not yet had a time from is Marciello. We now have, he's gone over the line, goes third. Raffaele Marciello, 154.959. Christopher Mies goes up to second. The margin is now only 0.3 Van Voor to the rest of them. So he certainly was looking strong, but the others are catching up.
Yeah, I mean, that time for Dries Van Voor, first to break into the 154s. The message goes down the pit lane. Christopher Mies, not surprisingly, who is always very strong behind the wheel now, just 3 and a bit tenths from the sister car of Dries Van Voor. '15th. In fact, it's now 16th. He's just lost it literally. He came across the line 15th and he's dropped down one further place. Back to the 88 Mercedes Raffaele Marciello. Personal best, sector 1.
Jamie Green, 21st. He knows the circuit well. Although actually he won't have done that many miles at the very bottom of the hill where Marciello is now, because the DTM always uses the cut through, the little hairpin after this section. So it's Van Voor, Mies, Haase, so it's Audi, then Mercedes, Aston Martin, Marciello 4th, Engel 5th, Kirchhoff 6th, Fred Vervisch 7th, Caldarelli is 8th, David Pirelli going strongly in the Pro-Am Ferrari 9th, and Christian Engelhardt's Lamborghini is only 10th at the moment. Right, here's Marciello, he's got traffic ahead. Is that going to be a significant problem? Let's see.
It's not going to affect him directly. It's in his line of sight. So coming up into the chicane, he'll be worrying, well, he'll be wondering if not worrying whether it'll be the final turn, whether that's going to have a bearing as he now runs the curb into this last turn, turn 17. Make sure again you've got that clean exit, don't run too wide on the outside of the AstroTurf. So he comes across the line. Marciello stays 4th on a 155.027.
So he goes through. We've got Marcus Winkelhock in the pit lane, and Steve Earle being shown as in the pit lane. That car has appeared on the timing screen. That there's one other that's missing.
There is.
Who has not been out?
Well, was that the 444? The Schiller car?
Which might be correct. The Schulze car.
Because that was the interview we had in the pit lane saying something had happened, so I'm assuming that's the only car I can't see. So the Steve Earle car, the car that we saw initially, the reason the red flag came out in the spin up the hill through the Schumacher S's, Christopher Mies.
Dries Van Voor's gone quicker again. He's in the 54s now, 154.439, so the margin is 4/10 over everybody else. Headed by this man, as you see, number 2, P2, Christopher Mies, who is down in sector 1. So this lap you can kind of ignore, really. He's 2/10 down within the first part of it.
Be interesting to see when the session finishes if there's still a 4/10 of a second gap between first and second place Audis. Where is Dries Van Voor finding? That's a lot of time in identical cars to have over your teammate.
Yes, true enough. Down the pit road has just come also 24 GT newcomer Dorian Boccolacci, showing with Stefano Ortelli. Mies has got the road to himself, but is he able to find the 2/10 that he'd lost in the first sector? I don't think he is.
No, he's not. It's showing on timing and scoring. There are no greens indicating improvement or purples indicating fastest in that sector. 10 minutes remaining, so plenty of time to come back into the pits, which I suspect. No, he's going to continue. I thought he might have chosen to come in because there's nothing to be gained at the end of this lap other than have another go. Runs a little bit on the exit. So Christopher Mies continues on, and this lap is a 55.0 as opposed to a 54.8.
Now that's Hugo de Sadelier in the R Motorsport Aston Martin. He's actually the slowest at the moment. The Silver Cup car, 157.138. He did improve last time, but Hugo de Sadelier, who's adapting, of course, to GT cars this year after LMP3, LMP2 experience, he makes the climb up the hill. Dries Van Voor is in the pit lane. Most are heading for the pits at the moment for a tyre change. and then maybe get a second run before the flag comes out, which the drivers in Q1 didn't really get the opportunity because of the red flag.
Yeah, and I just wonder whether the number 1 Audi will go back out again. They've got such a margin, and they're on pole position. If they don't go back out, what they will do is essentially save rubber and have more options when it comes down to when they make their pit stops in first or second of the races, to change onto or start on new tyres or start on tyres that have only done a very small amount of mileage. Gives the team that option and flexibility. So they may sit out the next 4 or so 5 minutes. If they have to react and respond, Dries van Thor has got the pace. As Mirko Bortolotti's looking there, wondering where his 63, Christopher Mies behind the wheel. So Christian Engelhardt, 63, 10th position.
Wolfgang Triller, incidentally, has got out now, that number 444 Ferrari. There is Dries van Thor in the pit lane, having a look at the data, finding his time, waiting for a new set of tyres ready to go out. The track is getting busier once again as more and more cycle through the stops.
But they're sitting and waiting. That's all they have to do. The car's up on the axles, or the jacks. If they need to respond, react, they just throw a fresh set of tyres in that car, and Dries van Thor push the go button and he'll be off. But if they don't, they are literally quids in, or maybe I should say euros in. Quids in sounds preferable. And I mean, a fantastic lap. I mean, over half a second quicker than he achieved Friday afternoon when he was the quickest car of the field.
So there down the pit roads comes the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. And we've got just under 8 minutes of the session to go. Now that's Andrea Bertolini back out. Been a bleak year for the AF Corsa squad. Accident at Monza in the Endurance, accident at Brands Hatch in the first sprint round, for example. But Bertolini, still a very rapid driver indeed, hugely experienced. FIA GT champion, GT1 world champion, Spa 24 winner, breaks the beam now, and Bertolini onto a flying lap. That was his start-up lap.
Interesting, the way he exited the final turn, unlike how you exited at the end of a flying lap, did not use anywhere near the available width of the exit of the corner. He could have done. He wanted a clean drive. He didn't want to waste energy. So whether it pays dividends at the end of this lap, that's where you put it down to experience. A driver like Bertolini has got so much experience and knowledge, especially behind the wheel of a Ferrari. Not many in the top 12 on the racetrack. Only Christopher Hauser, Marcello, Frederic Visch and Jimmy Pla. Everybody else hanging back in the event that they might need to go out to defend or consolidate or possibly think about improving.
Caldarelli did a personal best and then pitted.
Yeah, so I don't know what Caldarelli is doing. I would imagine he will be one of those runners that will undoubtedly be back out on track before this session concludes.
There's Bertolini coming up against traffic, and a big flash of the lights to say to the Lamborghini ahead, I'm on a quick lap, please get out of the way. 6 minutes are on the clock still, and Andrea Bertolini currently to be found 15th fastest, but bear in mind this is a Pro-Am car, so Bertolini is very much the pro. Louis Macchiels is the experienced and successful Am, but it's not going to be threatening for overall honours. Now, is anybody venturing out? Yes. Is anybody setting the timing screen green? Only Clement Schmidt, who is 19th.
Clement Schmidt's done personal best in Sector 1. Had initially in the session when it got underway, the car shares with Kelvin van der Linde, which we know as a quick Audi. So that car has got a personal best with Clement Schmidt's in the first sector, 54.8, 54.3, so it's half a second down on the sector. That's best. There's the number 1 car. Wheels and tyres have been fitted to it. Can we see, are they fresh ones or are they tyres that have been run? We couldn't quite see. There's the 66. Clement Schmidt.
You saw on the side of the WRT Audi the Forza Enzo legend in support of Enzo Ede. 5 minutes on the clock, and Van Thor is one of the few to be in the pit lane now. There's only that and the damaged Steve Earle car. Over the line goes Jack Hawksworth in the Lexus, which is 13th. It's good to have that car in the sprint races, the World Challenge Europe this weekend. There is 66, which is the Clement Schmidt Audi, but still only 17th.
Yeah, I mean, it made personal best in sector 1 and sector 3, but didn't actually gain much. In fact, I think he lost because by the time he completed his lap, others around him had improved. So Dries van Voor of the field and Steve Earle at the bottom of the field are the only two cars remaining in the pit lane. And Dries van Voor is all set to go. The car has got a fresh set of tyres on, or maybe the same set of tyres put back on, don't know. That's always difficult to try and second guess. As Fred Verbies, another star from the 10 hours in Suzuka one weekend ago. Saturday race, Sunday race?
I think. Well, Fred Verbies on a mission on the curb, and that's going to cost him a little bit of time. He's bringing everything out of this car, the Phoenix Racing Audi that he shares with Finlay Hutchison, who's also in the GT4 races. He comes up towards the timing line and he will break the beam. Now, Fred Verbies goes up one place, up to 6th.
Yeah, gets on the 3rd row of the grid, which here at Nurburgring is infinitely better than being on the 4th, but not as good as the 2nd or the 1st. Overtaking, we know, is not easy, like most racetracks these days. And the nature and development of race cars in general means that everything is so equal and so close that finding an easy or a place, a clean overtake opportunity is becoming something you have to work very hard at. It's not going to be a gift. As the Lexus makes its way through the chicane up to the final turn. Raffaele Marciello getting a bit of a hurry out from Jack Hawksworth. So one might say, was that being impeded? Did the 88 impede the Lexus? Because I suspect that Marciello was preparing for a lap and Hawksworth was coming up to the conclusion. Hawksworth in 11th position might feel that, well, that cost me a couple of tenths of a second, and it could have made the difference between being 11th and 10th.
So Raffaele Marciello still 4th, the best of the Mercedes contingent. So ASP ahead of Black Falcon, Maro Engel's only 5th. And where's the next of the Mercedes? You go a long, long way down. Timur Boguslavski, 17th. Oh, apologies, 13th. Jim Clark, cross spotted, John, thank you. Yes, Jim Clark, another Liaka fleet. 2.5 minutes to go. Improvements are coming on the second set of tyres. Boguslavski's an improver, so also Schmidt, Turco, Clark, Jack Hawksworth 11th. But Raffaele Marciello not looking so good in the sectors.
27 cars on track. 2 minutes remaining. Dries van Voor has gone back out onto the pit, so he will have, in effect, come across the start-finish line, one flying lap to defend. He doesn't really need to defend because he still has got that 4/10 of a second cushion between first and second place. Christopher Mies in the number 2 Audi, sister car to Dries van Voor. Christopher Hauser in the 25 in 3rd place, that's the Santa Lock Racing. And then the first of the Mercedes.
And that was Hauser going way up the curb and kicking up the dirt. So he's trying. Now Christopher Mies has done the absolute best in the middle and a personal best in the final sectors, but he stays second fastest. The lap time at 1:54.682. He's brought the gap down to Van Tor, but he doesn't go any quicker. Maro Engel down in sector 1, but has just done an absolute best in sector 2.
Raffaele Marciello currently 4th, not indicating anything remarkable. Maro Engel, in the meantime, has popped up into 3rd position. So he's on the 2nd row of the grid, fastest 2nd and 3rd sectors. Marciello remains in 5th, so that's a disappointment for the 88 Mercedes. They haven't looked to have the kind of dominance they had 1 year ago.
No, they've had that one win, but it's been a lean season in contrast, hasn't it? There's Christopher Mies, who was good last time. Can he maintain that pace, or has he had the best out of the tyres? He's about to go through the beam at the end of sector 1, and that will reveal whether he's still on it. He still looks quick, and the timing screen says he's not as quick. He's dropped 3/10.
So unless there is a miracle in the final 2 sectors, and by that you're looking at something around half a second over that Dries van Voor has achieved earlier in the session when Van Voor set that stunning, scintillating time, 1:54.4. Christopher Mies actually has halved that gap on his last lap, so he's got it down to just a 1/4 of a second between first and second. This lap, it's unlikely we're going to see any further improvement. So Christopher Mies has done good work to get himself closer to the number 1 Audi, but still a 1/4 of a second away. Wow, middle sector. Wow, maybe there's a challenge coming from Christopher Mies. He's got to be strong, running the curb a little bit too much in the exit through the chicane. Now, neat and tidy, get on the throttle, don't overrun the exit of the corner. It's the final turn.
55.4 to beat, 54.4, he does a 55.0, so not as good. He did lose out in the last sector, so it was an absolute best in the middle, bookended with two sectors, really.
Yeah, there is the pole setting man. Dries van Thor comes up through the Schumacher S's, and really it's just a drive back. He may not even complete this lap, he may decide. The team will say, you're not being challenged, just drive into the pit lane, and we'll just get the chamois out, give it a bit of a rub down, and get it ready for this afternoon.
He has looked stunning all the way through this session. He has, of course, from that green light, been on it.
Yeah.
Instantly on pole, and has looked so strong ever since. Christopher Haase has gone second. Christopher Haase up to second on a 1:54.659. So as Vantor bails, his margin at the end is only a fifth of a second.
So Christopher Haase, that came really out of nowhere. We didn't see those expected times in the first and second sectors, but a stunning third sector has made the difference for Christopher Haase as opposed to Christopher Mies. And this is the 25 Audi making its way to complete its final lap. It will be into the pit lane, the checkered flag. Yes, the checkered flag is out, and everybody's been on their way back in. Another good David Pirelli, and the Ferrari 333 in that last sector also ended up quickest overall on the 17.9. It's a very short sector, but you know, unexpected, but nonetheless very welcome for the 333 Ferrari to hang its hat and say we were quick in one sector.
David Pirelli, though, 9th overall in that Pro-Am car that he shares with Renat Salikov. That's Mauro Engel you're looking at, 4th, but that gives him, if you like, pole in the Mercedes class. So Black Falcon ahead of Aka ASP in that Inter-Nissan fight. But the best time of all from Dries van Thor, 1:54.439. We also had late in the session the number 17 Shea Davis Audi through the gravel. And everyone now making their way down towards the pit lane. So we've seen qualifying for both races. Race 1 today will get underway just after 2:10 local time. And let's confirm how they line up for tomorrow's race then, with Dries van Thor on pole position for Audi, Christopher Haase second, Christopher Mies third. It's an Audi lockout at the front ahead of the Mauro Engel Mercedes, Marvin Kirchhofer's Aston Martin 5th from Raffaele Marciello, Andrea Caldarelli only 7th from Fred Vervies. A great effort by David Pirelli. And then Christian Engelhardt also a long way back for him, 10th ahead of Oscar Tunjo. Jack Hawksworth, Lexus, Jim Clark, Phil Keane, and newcomer Dorian Boccolacci rounds out the top 15. 16th fastest, Andrea Bertolini in the AF Corsa Ferrari, ahead of Clement Schmidt and then Markus Winkelhock. 19th quickest, Timur Bogoslavski. 20th, Diego Menchaca, the Lamborghini driver, ahead of a rather subdued Nick Foster. Thomas Neubauer a long way back. He's only 22nd, ahead of Hugo de Sadler. Jamie Green, still adapting to GT3 machinery, 24th, ahead of Milan Dotra. Then Shea Davis. Wolfgang Triller did go out late, was 27th, and the one we didn't see, of course, Steve Earle, with the damage from Q1 and the efforts of Rory Penttinen. So Q2 then at an end, and the cars return to the teams. Simon Gachet, Christopher Haase had a good morning, and Christopher Haase ends Q2 second fastest. But Dries van Thor tops the times in Q2. He's with Dakota.
Dries, well done. Even faster than Mirko Bortolotti. Amazing lap.
Yeah, it was very good. I mean, the car has been working well all weekend already. Yesterday it was also very well. So, yeah, I'm very happy. Big thanks to the mechanics. I think still early, but I would like to put the pole to Enzo. You know, we all know he's in hospital, and maybe it gives him more strength to fight harder. So we still have a race to go, but it's already something I can give. So that's nice. That's
what I was just about to ask you. You ready to go racing this afternoon?
Yeah, of course. I mean, today we start P10, I think. So it will be a bit more tricky, but for tomorrow I think we're looking good, so we'll have to wait and see.
Let's see how you go. Congratulations.
So well done, Dries van Thor. Pole position for tomorrow's race, which will be the second of the two, therefore, in Blancpain GT World Challenge Europe this weekend. Let's have a quick look at the highlights then of Q2. Everyone pouring out on track, but straight away it was that number 1 Audi that just seemed to have the pace. Dries van Thor was on his toes and fired out of the pit lane to go top. Others threatened, but he was always at the head of the times, keeping a margin of 2 tenths, even had a second run right at the very end. But the Audis, certainly in Q2, looking very strong indeed. Fred Vervies threw everything at it. Also, Christopher Hassel was another running wide coming out of the Schumacher S's. But Dries van Tor tops qualifying. Join us for race action later today. Bye-bye.